Welcome to the Restore It Ralph channel. Today I'm going to start doing a timing belt and water pump on my '02 Dodge Stratus coupe. I don't know why either. This is a car that I kind of accidentally came upon, but I kind of like it, and it's a low mile car, needs a paint job. It is not a 100,000 mile interval like a lot of newer cars. Evidently it's a 60,000 mile timing belt, and this car has 73,000 miles on it. Before I do anything like put license plates or a paint job on this car, I need to make sure that I don't screw up the engine and the belt doesn't break. Front wheel drive in general I'm not super stoked on, but you got to do it. If you're not familiar with these particular cars, this is a Dodge Stratus coupe, which is a Diamond Star Motors, which is a joint venture between Mitsubishi and Chrysler. So this is actually a third gen Mitsubishi Eclipse underneath the skin. It's actually got the 6G72 24 valve Mitsubishi V6, and pretty much even the dash and everything is Mitsubishi. So if this was a four-door Dodge Stratus, it would be a Chrysler car, and I wouldn't be doing a timing belt on one of those. It would be a winter beater at best, and I would just run it until the belt snaps. This one, I kind of like them. So I'll put a little bit of effort in it, just a tiny bit of money, and see where it gets me. Taking some air with my blowgun and blowing some of the cobwebs and dirt and dust out from the engine bay. This will also work well for some paint prep because I can take some delaminated clear coat off. I have never done a timing belt on one of these engines, so I'll be learning along with you guys. It doesn't look too hateful to get to compared to some of them I've done, but we'll see. I'm sure it'll be a pain in the butt. Looks like the first step is to remove the alternator and probably that big bracket that holds the alternator, because it seems to be part of the motor mount, which I believe has to come out of the way as well. So I'll unhook the battery and get started with that. Before I start that, I think I'm actually going to pop the front wheel off and get some of the under wheel arch cladding out of the way, so that way when I get to the timing belt I can probably get to the alternator a little bit easier as well. So I ordered accessory drive belts along with this because I'm going to replace these. If this is any indication of the condition of the rubber and therefore the timing belt on this car, this is the right thing to do. This style belt tensioner is not an automatic spring tensioner. You have to loosen the center nut of this pulley, and then this bolt right here moves the pulley up and down and basically gives it its tension. So I've previously loosened this, but when I loosen this bolt, you see the pulley moves upward and puts slack in our belt. This is usually one of the harder parts of these jobs, is getting the crank bolt loose. So you need to use some sort of spanner wrench. This one lists a special Mitsubishi one. I got a universal one here. My impact was not strong enough to break this thing loose, so it's loose. One of the reasons I'm tackling this project now is you can probably hear the rain on the barn roof, and that's keeping me from really doing a bunch of sanding outside or even spraying primer. I don't like to do it when it's so humid out. So right now I'm working on the over bracketed alternator. This is kind of a pain in the butt, but gotta get this out of the way so I can get the motor mount bracket off. All right, so these 4 bolts on the motor mount bracket are the worst ones so far. They're not terrible, just the frame rail's right in the way, so you can't get a ratchet in there. All right, worst part of this job so far, as it often is getting this engine mount bracket off of the engine block. This one, when I try and pull it off, it would run right into the unibody frame rail there. And so I couldn't jack it high enough to get it past, couldn't jack it low enough or let it droop low enough. What I had to do was I had to drop it to get the 2 lower bolts out, then jack it all the way up to get these top two bolts out, and this one basically I had to rotate it, get this one on the right, and then this one here. So basically you take all the bolts loose, leave them loose in there, and curse. One of the reasons I wasn't filming is because to this point it's been a family-friendly video, and it was not while I was doing that. So I've got an old pilot bushing in between the bolt and the crank, so that way I don't mess up that roll pin. That's what locates the balancer onto the crank. So I don't want to mess that up. I don't want to pull that out either. So I've got just this spacer here so I can bar the engine over and set up the timing marks. So I cleaned off this pulley and found the timing mark here. It's just that little circle on the belt drive gear. I'll line that dot on that gear up with that line, that kind of raised casting. That's our timing mark, and then double check my cam and then get ready to remove this thing. I've seen a Fiat engine where the crank bolt is actually left-hand thread and there is no keyway on it. So when you go to, like, say, tighten the bolt, it actually loosens it, and it can actually make the thing come out of time because it takes the tension off of this drive gear. So always follow service information, otherwise you can end up with a big mess. All right, I've got it rotated around. There's a little scalp or notch in the back of that little plate there for the gear that lines up. You can see this dot is lined up with the raised casting, so that should be top dead center for the timing mark. That was too good to be true. My timing mark right here on the cam gear needs to be up in this little notch and is opposite, so I need to do another rotation on the crank and it should line up. All right, that notch in the cam gear is lined up with that notch up there. That notch on the cam gear is lined up with that V notch there. So it is ready to go. You can see this is a Mitsubishi belt, so this thing is either original or it's been done at the 60,000 mile interval, and that was still 20 years ago, 15 years ago. I don't feel bad about replacing it. All right, it's a sunnier day, so I got the barn door open, getting ready to pull the old timing belt off. I'm gonna tell you guys, I'm not replacing the water pump. And the reason is I don't want to. I don't feel like it. 73,000 mile engine. I know I'm gonna regret it, but I don't care. I don't feel like it. One method of helping get the timing belt back on in the correct position would be to take maybe like a paint pen and mark the belt right here on the line. So then I can take this old belt and line it up with the new belt and transfer my paint marks onto the new belt. If you were just taking this off to replace the water pump and not replace the belt, that would be pretty nice. I'm not going to do that because if I do everything correctly, the timing marks should line up the belt and I won't need to do that. At first glance, this timing belt doesn't look terrible, but as soon as I start putting some flex on it, I can see some rubber deterioration, some cracking in it. So it was probably the right decision to put a timing belt on, even though this is one of my least favorite jobs. Got my new tensioner pulley, tensioner assembly, and idler pulley that came with the kit. And install those here and then start putting the belt on. This is the auto tensioner off this car, and kind of looks like some fuzziness on there. So a little bit of the oil out of this tensioner, I believe, is starting to seep out of it. And then when you get oil and belt debris, it sticks to it. So the belt debris is stuck to this. Glad I'm replacing this. If this belt has been replaced before, this probably was not replaced. So it's a good thing I'm doing it. Hydraulic tensioner with grenade pin is installed. We got the new tensioner pulley installed and the idler pulley installed. So I guess it's time to start fishing the belt around. So procedure for most timing belts is start at the crank, go opposite direction of the engine rotation, and stretch it tight while it's on the marks. Now, always follow service information. We started getting this going. I think we've got enough tension down here to get it started. So these marks are lined up. We're gonna go around the water pump, around the back cam, and then finally the tensioner, and then recheck everything. So getting this timing belt tension is kind of a process, and I'm very happy that my son was out here to help. So you use a beam type torque wrench and a tool that fits in these two little holes to set the belt pre-tension, and then we'll tighten that center bolt at the same time. So I've got it torqued to the 36 foot-pounds that I wanted it to be. Got to be careful not to have this center pulley move when you're torquing this bolt. So that was pretty much a two-man job. If you're doing it by yourself, it would be a pain in the butt. Now we're going to pull the grenade pin on the hydraulic tensioner and then rotate the engine twice and measure the gap in between the pulley bracket arm and the top of this tensioner. One of the tools that you really want to use when doing this Mitsubishi/Hyundai style timing belt tensioner is one of these guys. It's a tool that goes onto the tensioner pulley. These two pins go into the pulley, and then you can use a beam style or a dial style torque wrench to apply the amount of torque onto the belt, and then that sets our tension before the hydraulic tensioner maintains it. So here's our pulley. Put that in there, and then you'd pull torque on it and then tighten the bolt that holds it in place. Since it's off center, that would apply torque to it and apply tension. Could you do this job without these tools? Absolutely. You could take, I've seen guys on the internet that were using a pin, an Allen key, and a screwdriver and prying on it, needle nose pliers, and all kinds of stuff. My big thing is this is an interference engine, so I don't want it to fail and be my fault. I want it to be the fault of the Chinese parts that I ended up putting on it. They were Gates, but got them out of the box and made in China. So I tried to get quality stuff, and well, we'll see how it goes. All right, it's supposed to check the protrusion of this pin between the body of the tensioner and the arm here, and spec is 0.15 to 0.2 of an inch, and we are at 0.178, so that's good enough. All right, everything is back together besides the wheel. Putting it back together was not a big deal. It's just a lot of fiddly work, but it was just the reverse of taking it apart. So hopefully we should be good now. Timing belt service is done. So if I get ambitious, I could paint this car. I probably should put license plates and insurance on it, make sure it's a decent car before I put a bunch of work in a paint job. But now I can have peace of mind that the timing belt is not going to snap, or if it does, it's not through my negligence. After completing the timing belt job, my son decided to clean up underneath the hood a little bit, so it's looking pretty sharp. Now that the timing belt's done, this thing is probably road ready. It's got new tires on it, gone through a couple things. I should put this thing on the road and see what it does. So I'm probably going to paint this car now that the timing belt is finished. If you guys would like to see that on the channel, let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the Restore It Ralph channel.